Welcome to the Touch MBA Admissions Podcast, where we discuss all things related to MBA admissions and how to get into your number one school. If you want to know more about this program, check out our website at touchmba.com. What's up, future MBA All-Stars? This is Darren, host of the No BS MBA Admissions Podcast, where we get straight to the point and discuss how you can find and get into the best MBA programs for you. I want to wish everyone a happy 2013 from Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. Hope you all had a fantastic New Year's. I definitely did. And I'm really looking forward to 2013, getting a lot of great guests on the show and offering you the best tips possible for getting into your dream MBA program. Today we're going to talk about 4 different ways to capture and keep the attention of admissions officers who are reading your application. A lot of the content today comes from the book Pitch Anything, which was written by Oren Klaff, who is an investment banker, and he's pitched tons of companies. He's raised over $400 million. And this is his cheat sheet on how to grab and maintain the prospect's attention and interest, help them recognize your offer as an opportunity, and cultivate their desire for what you have to offer. Now, the caveat here is that the pitches Oren Klaff was making were in person and usually lasted about 20 minutes when he was trying to fundraise money. And your pitch is your MBA application, which will take most MBA admissions officers about 20 minutes to read through. But of course, it's in a written format, so it's slightly different. Nevertheless, I believe these tips could be very useful for you. So let's get started. The first tip in keeping attention is to be what Oren Klaff calls a pleasant novelty. And to pull a quote from the book, first, you don't want your message to trigger fear alarms. And second, you want to make sure it gets recognized as something positive, unexpected, and out of the ordinary, a pleasant novelty. The first thing is you don't want to trigger fear alarms. And what are fear alarms for admissions officers? They are weak grades, low GMAT scores, low EQ, weak communication skills, and poor English skills. Of course, any evidence of cheating, lying, stealing. And another trigger alarm I have to say is when the candidate has a take attitude. And by that I mean that the candidate is solely focused on what the school can give him and nothing focused about how he can contribute to the school. So the first step in capturing attention is capturing the right kind of attention and not setting off trigger alarms. The right kind of attention is when you create novelty by violating the target's expectations in a pleasing way. If your profile is similar to the stereotype that admissions officers have of people with similar backgrounds from you, they're going to mentally check out because they've seen this type of applicant so many hundreds of times that they're no longer unique. So what you need to do is break those common stereotypes. So if you're an Indian male with an engineering degree who has worked for an IT company for the past 3 years, those things aren't going to make you different. What's going to make you different are your hobbies and your interests and leadership activities outside of work. What impact have you made in your community or to your family or those around you? Again, this is really an exercise in storytelling because we love to meet new and interesting and talented people. We go to meetings and we go to class to learn something new. We go to see something we haven't seen before, right? So the degree of similarity between your application and others' applications are what we're trying to avoid here. And this is equally about how you respond to certain events in your life than to what you have actually accomplished, because that's really what makes you different, right? Not only what you've done, but how you respond to certain situations. It's just like watching a TV show or movie. We've seen this pattern of movie, we've seen this type of TV show over and over and over again, but what makes us watch the show is the way the character uniquely responds to certain problems in his or her life. So remember that the why and the how are as important as the what. Okay, let's get going to our second tip, which is the power of frames. Okay, so naturally, when you are applying to MBA programs, the MBA program has the quote-unquote authority frame because they are the ones who are selecting you. But there's ways to shift the frame so that you are in a much more powerful position and the MBA program is reacting to you. The MBA program wants you. So what are some ways you can do that? Okay, the first is to use a local star power frame. So what this means is keep the frame and the focus on what you're an expert at. Can you talk about your expertise in a way that makes the reader go, that's interesting. I've never thought about that before, or I never knew that. Another frame you can use is the intrigue frame. And in this frame, you're essentially capturing the reader's attention by keeping them on the edge of their seats. So, simple way to put this is you put a man in the middle of the jungle, you have beasts chasing the man through the jungle, and the man is just about to get out of the jungle. All right, so you're trying to reach that point in your story and in the way you tell your stories where the reader is at the edge of their seat. They want to know what happens. So let's talk about some practical ways to use the intrigue frame. When you're writing your goals essay, in other words, why do you want to get an MBA from this school and why now? Instead of just saying, I want to get an MBA because of XYZ reason, start with a lead sentence or a lead paragraph that keeps the reader on the edge of their seat. So one example would be asking a question. Is there such a thing as a strategy consulting gene? Okay. Or you can make an outlandish assertion. I am the president of an invisible company. Or you can start with a vividly described image. In the clearing stood a huge, delicately carved statue of Hariti, the Indonesian fertility goddess, a quizzical smile etched into her red lacquered face. You could do the "you are there" scene or anecdote. As the Lear jet's wheels touched down on idyllic Beko Island, Nordlink's CFO whispered 2 words that forever changed my career vision. What these different types of leads have done is capture your attention. They keep you on the edge of your seat. You want to know what happens. These leads are taken from Paul Bodine's fantastic book, Great Applications for Business School. I highly suggest you read that book as well. Another way to use intrigue in your application is to be very multidimensional. So maybe you're a total computer science nerd and you've gotten perfect grades as an undergraduate and in your master's program, but you're also the weightlifting champion of your school. Those two things just don't seem to fit together and are intriguing. Or maybe you've been a pastor for your church for the past 5 years, but you also manage the finances and investments for your family's business. I mean, these two things don't quite match. They create intrigue. All right, let's go to another frame, prizing. In a prizing frame, what you want to do here is avoid needy language. You have to remember you're the prize, not the school. And this is very hard to do, but the key here is to eradicate neediness. So you don't say stuff like, I hope I can get into XYZ school, or call the program world class, or say stuff like, if I get in, ... When you lose neediness, it's when you're often the most attractive. So a big part about this prizing frame is creating compelling alternatives for yourself so that the MBA program will realize you don't quite need the MBA program to accomplish your goals. You're going to accomplish your goals no matter what. And you've thought these through, you've thought your career path through. That is very attractive to an MBA program because you're not needy and dependent on the program to do everything you've ever wanted to do in life. One last frame to consider is the moral authority frame. So instead of just talking about your career and how it's going to benefit you and how it's all about your interests and what you like to do, you put your career arc into and you fit it into a purpose that is greater than yourself, and you put it into part of a greater mission or movement that you're more passionate about. When people talk about themselves endlessly, we tend to tune out. But if they talk about big ideas, a bigger purpose, a larger cause, then that is much more inclusive and captures the reader's interest, because the reader can be involved in that bigger purpose. All right, let's get to the third tip, which is to show movement. Movement always attracts attention. So to answer the common question of why do you want to get your MBA now, don't say, well, I want to start my own company and I need to improve my finance, accounting, and marketing skills. There's no movement there. Instead say, these are the market forces in the industry I want to get into. These are the technology forces that are changing, that I've seen change over the past couple years. These are the new social trends that are changing, and it's opened up this window for me to pursue and build a company in this target market. That's a much more compelling reason for why now. Okay, another way to show movement in your application is in your resume. You always want to show career trajectory or accelerated career progress if possible. If you've been promoted once or twice in your job, make sure this shows up in your resume. Or if you've grown in responsibility in any way, perhaps when you started as an analyst and now you're managing 2 analysts, you need to show that as well. Admissions officers love to see movement, especially upwards career movement. The fourth and final tip is about how to keep attention. Now, we've already talked about how to capture attention by being a pleasant novelty. So once you have the reader's attention, how do you keep it? Well, Ohrenclaff calls this push-pull, which basically means that you create an underlying tension that you might not stick around, that you might go somewhere else. And those of us in the dating game know this very well. When we really like someone, when someone really has our attention, we're worried about whether that person will never come back, or maybe we'll never see that person again. Or maybe the person will pick another guy or girl to be with. So how can you use this push-pull effect in your MBA application? Well, the key here is to set up a number of compelling alternatives to show the MBA program that you're applying to that you have a lot of options. Now, a lot of options could be other schools that you've already gotten into. A lot of other options could be a great possible job opportunity, even if you don't get your MBA. You'll always be seen as more attractive to a school if you have other options other than that school to fill your need. You want the admissions officer to think, oh wow, I've never really seen a candidate like this before, but it looks like he's gotten into some other schools and he has other options. We need to snag him or her up as soon as possible. Okay, so in summary, these 4 points: 1, be a pleasant novelty. Violate the target's expectations in a pleasing way. 2, set a strong frame, whether that strong frame is a local star power frame, an intrigue frame, a prizing frame, a moral authority frame, whatever it is. Make the MBA programs react to you instead of you reacting to the MBA program. 3, when telling your story, always show movement. Movement always captures attention. So movement in terms of your career progression, and movement in terms of the reasons why you're pursuing an MBA now. And finally, 4th, to keep that attention after you've captured it, do a little push-pull. Make sure you have very strong